What's up, all you mentees? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for the Marvel Cosmic Reading Order featuring Thanos, Part 1. So, let's get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before getting started, a huge thank you to our patrons for voting for the Marvel Cosmic Reading Order. Every month on our Patreon, we put up a poll where our Patreons can vote on what the next reading order should be. As a matter of fact, next week, the poll's going to go up, and it will be Superman reading order versus the X-Men updated reading order. So it's up to our patrons to vote. And if you want to partake on that, we have a link to our Patreon in the description of this video. We have different tiers for our Patreons, including the written documentation of the reading orders. Now, the other thing I was going to say is that this is quite a task when we're talking about the Cosmic Universe, because literally the Marvel Cosmic Universe, you could say, started all the way back with Fantastic Four #1. And then it just kind of branched out from there. So you have things like the Silver Surfer, you have characters like the Guardians of the Galaxy, but to me, I wanted to start with a character that kind of symbolizes the Marvel Cosmic Universe, and that is Thanos. So that's why I chose Thanos. Later on, I will do a reading order for Silver Surfer and Guardians of the Galaxy if people want to see that. But for now, we're going to start with the Mad Titan known as Thanos. And it all begins here with the Thanos Wars Infinity Origin Omnibus. So I think this is the most appropriate place, of course, when we're talking about Thanos. This is Thanos Wars Infinity Origins Omnibus. And this collects his earlier appearances, all the way from Iron Man number 55. And we'll talk about, without spoiling things, but I do have to talk about some spoilers. But I will, like always, let people know ahead of time if I'm getting ready to talk about a spoiler, whether it's major or something minor. But this introduces us to this tortured soul known as Strax, and the reason why he is being tortured is this man, this mad titan behind the scenes known as Thanos, who kind of stays in the shadows for the most part, but that's where this literally the story of Thanos begins, is within these pages. And then of course we have him interfere with the Avengers. You have a lot of appearances with Captain Marvel, especially when Jim Starlin took over, because he was created by Jim Starlin. So when Jim Starlin took over the book of Captain Marvel, this of course being the original Captain Marvel, we've had several incarnations of him since then. Yes, it was like they were opposite ends. Yeah, a lot of people, they always assume that it was Thanos against Adam Warlock, but long before Adam Warlock and Thanos, because they do become a thing, was Captain Marvel versus Thanos. So within these pages, he has problems with the Avengers, he has problems with the Guardians of the Galaxy. As a matter of fact, some of the stuff that's collected in here has been collected in the Guardians of the Galaxy solo omnibus. So when I do a Guardians of the Galaxy reading order, I don't know which one I'll use. I'll either use this omnibus or the Guardians omnibus, because really there's a lot of just double dipping. And I'll talk a little bit about that when I do the reading order of the Guardians. Here we are introduced to Magus and Adam Warlock, who's been part of this storyline since issue 1, otherwise known as him when he first appeared. But their stories are just so tied up together that I have to mention Adam Warlock with Thanos. And of course, Magus being his evil self. We'll talk a little bit about that towards the Infinity War storyline. But this is the earlier appearances of Thanos. Now, I do have to talk about a spoiler, even though literally the title of the graphic novel gives away what happens. So just as a heads up, a little bit of a spoiler as to why we don't really see Thanos for about a decade in the Marvel Comics. So, just in case, spoilers, we're looking at the death of Captain Marvel in this original graphic novel format has been collected in this omnibus. This is also coming out in a gallery edition. It is a beautiful book. Now, I'm not going to spoil how Captain Marvel dies, and this is of course the original Marvel, not the new incarnation, because he's had a few different characters that have taken the role of Captain Marvel, including Monica Rambeau, Carol Danvers, and of course his own son. But before this, in a Marvel 2-in-1 issue, Thanos and Adam Warlock fought to the death. So I'll let you find out exactly how that happens. But yes, this is the death of Captain Marvel, and in these pages, because the Mad Titan can overcome death, if you will, There's an emotional final battle with Thanos, and I think it's a beautiful story. If you've not read this is one of the most important Marvel stories that has ever been printed on paper. But it's a beautiful story. It's collected in here. Like I said, there's a gallery edition coming out later on. A lot of the stories in here have been collected in Avengers versus Thanos. So here he is again with the final fight, and then after this, it's like both of the characters are gone. Captain Marvel dies, and then something happens to Thanos, where he just is missing from the Marvel Comics universe for about 10 years. Until we have something called the Infinity Gauntlet. Like, they have hinted at the Infinity Gems in the original Thanos Origins, Infinity Origin book, but this is where they become an important part of the storyline. And it all kicks off with Jim Starlin writing the character of Thanos, bringing him back after a decade of being missing in the pages of Silver Surfer. So this is where everything begins. His obsession with death has always kind of been there, but this is where it intensifies. And Jim Starlin had just taken his one character out of obscurity and brought him back strong. Like, probably this is the story that makes him the strongest nemesis for the entire Marvel Universe, and it all kicks off in the pages of Silver Surfer. Drawn by Ron Lim, written by Jim Starlin, and then eventually, there's Nebula looking a little bit different than she used to look, but eventually all of this leads into, there's the Thanos quest, where he's going after the gems, not the stones, contrary to what the movies tell you. I love that they have all those Silver Surfer issues and the Thanos quest in this omnibus. Again, all of this has been released in trade paperback format, but I love this omnibus. It's one of my favorites. So, yes, I think this is issue 50. This is one of the best issues of Silver Surfer. Yeah! Love that cover. And I love the full return of Thanos into the Marvel Comics universe. And then we jump into the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, the Infinity Gauntlet was a 6-issue miniseries, but it became a huge event. Crossover event into a lot of issues of Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, and other comics from the Marvel Universe like Quasar. But this is where Thanos, infatuated with death, decides to sacrifice a half of the population. Now, meantime, we get to see where Adam Warlock and Drax and Gamora and Pip the Troll have been hanging out. And I'll let you find out how all that plays out and how they eventually come back. But with his love of death, he decides to snap half of the population out of reality, including some of our heroes. So eventually our heroes notice that something is wrong. There are people missing. We even see the return of Star Fox, his brother here, and then Captain America is holding a council with the world's heroes that are left, talking about the missing heroes, where they've been, what's going on, what the possibilities are. So that's what this story is. It's about how all of Earth's mightiest heroes, not just the remaining Avengers, have to go and fight Thanos in order to get back everyone that they love or all their missing teammates and friends. And it's an amazing storyline written by Jim Starlin, drawn by drawn by George Perez, with the exception of the last 2 final issues that are drawn by Ron Lim. And it's just Thanos wiping out all of the good guys using the Infinity Gems and the Infinity Gauntlet to do it. And it shows just how much of a badass character that he is. And then, of course, the crossovers are all held back, collected back here in the back. You all know I love sneaking collected editions in that are not in the thumbnail of the video. And this being one of them. This is the Silver Surfer Thanos quest. And this literally sets up the events of Infinity Gauntlet, except unlike Infinity Gauntlet, it doesn't skip the issues of Silver Surfer. Most of the issues of Silver Surfer that are in here have the return of Thanos and sets up the return of Thanos for what's going to happen in the Infinity Gauntlet. And then this is volume 6 of the Epic Collection. Now, there is a trade paperback called the Infinity Gauntlet Aftermath, but most of those issues are collected in a couple of trade paperbacks, and this being one of them. This is Silver Surfer Epic Collection number 7, the Infinity Gauntlet. But this goes past the Infinity Gauntlet. So this goes past, it takes us all the way up until issue number 66. So if you want to find out what happens after the Infinity Gauntlet, that kind of sets up the events of Infinity War, well, this book will help, and so will this trade paperback here. And this is the Infinity Watch. So after the events of the Infinity Gauntlet, Warlock decides to create his own team members of gem holders. Each of the team members is going to hold a specific gem that made up the Infinity Gauntlet. And that's what this story is literally about. And this collects the first 22 issues. However, I will say to stop reading after issue 6, because after issue 6, Uncanny Omar talked pretty one day. After issue 6, issue 7 through 10 are just part of the next storyline, the next big crossover event, and that is So here we have the Infinity War Omnibus, also collected in trade paperbacks, and the 2 latest printings of the trade paperbacks have had those issues of the Infinity Watch collected in here. So what is the story of the Infinity War? Well, in order for Adam Warlock to be able to hold a specific Infinity Gem, he had to do away with all his evil in him. And we all know from the past that is Magus, and that's who the villain of this storyline is. However, he also had to wipe away all the good. So it's not, he just wants to remain neutral. So this is all written by Jim Starlin, drawn by, of course, Ron Lim, who did the last couple of issues of the Infinity Gauntlet. So it is the return of Magus, and this time we have Thanos on sort of the neutral ground, like deciding on where to be. But again, Adam Warlock playing a big part in this, and Magus not wearing an afro, but his man bun instead. So this omnibus also has all the evil versions of every Marvel character. So the crossover is literally the evil version of Daredevil, the 6-armed spider character, the doppelganger as he was known, and that dude stuck around way too long. I think he was part of the whole Maximum Carnage storyline, even made it into the video game. But that's really what this is. This is like the evil versions of all these characters that are being personified and coming alive and trying to kill their own counterparts. There's Wonder Man. So this has a huge crossover with a lot of the characters that you normally didn't see in the Infinity Gauntlet. Whereas the Infinity Gauntlet remained more cosmic, this is literally like you have characters like Nomad, Moon Knight, Sleepwalker, the New Warrior, Silver Sable, and the Wild Pack. And yeah, what we saw, Wonder Man, there's New Warriors. Ugh, look at that oversized artwork. Come on, we need that New Warriors Omnibus Volume 2. Derek Robertson, killing it. But that's what this is. And again, this has issues of the Infinity Watch 7 through 10, so you can see how exactly that plays out with that ongoing series. Now, you're more welcome to come back to the Infinity Watch trade paperback. By the way, the original series was called Warlock and the Infinity Watch. And read the rest of this volume. However, I strongly suggest just reading issues, well, I assume you just read 7 through 10 in the omnibus format, but if you didn't, you read them through this way, that's fine. But I strongly suggest reading issues 11 all the way up until 17, because issues 18 are part of, here we have the Infinity Crusade Omnibus, wrapping up as what is known as the original Infinity Trilogy. So I say original because there was a second one that not a lot of people talk about, but I'll be talking about it here on this episode. So this collects the Infinity Crusade crossover event. Again, when I mentioned that Adam Warlock separated his evil self and just wanted to remain neutral, it also meant that he had to get rid of everything that is good in him, and that's where the goddess comes from. So the goddess pretty much just kidnaps, if you will, well, voluntarily, of course, all these characters in the Marvel Universe that believe in something. Not necessarily Christianity or Buddhism, but just believe in spirituality or have had a grace with death. So that's what this storyline is. However, Adam Warlock believes that we need a balance in the universe. We need life and death. We need good and evil. Wonder how long it took him to learn that lesson. But anyway, that's what this storyline is. And again, has issues of Warlock and the Infinity Watch in here. And that's why I told you to stop reading at issue number 17. And then we also have brand new issues, a brand new series called WARLOCK Chronicles. It has the first 5. Yes! Tom Greinsberg. I love this guy's artwork. I know I go on about his art. To me, he's like a perfect mix of Frank Frazetta and Mike Mignola. I get it. I know people hate his artwork, but I happen to love his art. And then we have Ron Lim doing the main story arc, of course, and that is the Infinity Crusade. All of this written by Jim Starlin, the guy that created Thanos. Look, came back a decade later and still writing his character. Now, unlike at the end of the first omnibus with the death of Captain Marvel, Thanos really doesn't go away into obscurity. He stays in the Marvel Universe. From time to time, you see him appear. But literally, the cosmic characters just kind of died out. Like Silver Surfer's line got canceled. Eventually, well, let's talk about that. Let's move on to the next book. At this moment, I just want to remind you all to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. We put out videos every day because we're talking about one of the greatest crossovers ever, and I've talked about this in my Thor reading order. And that is Thor, Blood and Thunder. Thor has gone mad, and now it's up to the Silver Surfer and Warlock and his Infinity Watch to help take him down. And again, this has some kick-ass artwork. You know, this is all Bart Sears. It's Tom Greinsberg again, Tom Rainey, Angel Medina, and MC Wyman. But I was going to say it's all 90s, extreme, in your face, but that I really enjoy this story. It's got Beta Ray Bill. How could you not like this story? But anyway, this is the next big event. This is the next time you see aspects of the things that Thanos did, and that's why I included in this reading order. Because, you know, Adam Warlock played a big part of Thanos' life. You see the big fight here between Thor and Thanos again. And it won't be the last time that those two characters fight. Look at that. Yes. But that's why I included this in this reading order again. And this is also where you find the remaining issues of Warlock Chronicles, because it only lasted 8 issues, as well as the missing issues of the Infinity Watch that are not collected in the 2 collections. So this is where you find Warlock and the Infinity Watch issues number 26 through 42. Again, those missing issues are in the Blood of Thunder. And as I was mentioning earlier, sadly, hey, they actually have the covers to Blood and Thunder. So, yes, the cosmic books just didn't sell as well as they were at one time. So slowly, one by one, they were getting canceled. So Warlock Chronicles got canceled. Eventually, yes, Warlock and the Infinity Watch got canceled with issue 42, and this is the remaining issues. Eventually, even now, Silver Surfer does stay strong for a long time. It's not canceled for a few years after this. Now, the importance of this epic collection here, by the way, now Ron Mars is writing Silver Surfer, so Jim Starlin is taking a seat back. But the importance of this is really the 4-issue miniseries just called Silver Surfer and Warlock Resurrection. So if in this 4-issue miniseries and the Secret Defenders that are collected in here, it helps set up the events of the next Thanos storyline. Because as I mentioned, like Adam Warlock and Thanos are kind of like the yin and yang. And yes, at one time it was Captain Marvel and Thanos, but really now the importance of Adam Warlock is just as important as having Thanos in a book. So it's really odd when you don't see either one of the characters when one of them is appearing in a specific event, or even in titles like Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, this character may look familiar to you, and I will keep his mystery, but he is known as Legacy, and he plays an important part in the next story arc, and that is Thanos' cosmic powers. Now, the importance of this volume is, besides the 6-issue miniseries Thanos' Cosmic Powers, is in the pages of the Secret Defenders, Thanos is forming his own Secret Defenders, and it's a team of Geatar, the Super Skrull, Nitro, the Titanium Man, and Rhino. And what they need to do, this is a scheme, that they need to kidnap a monk oracle. So, of course, this all leads to the Cosmic Powers comic book miniseries. And then it starts with Thanos just using the monocle's knowledge to find the Tyrant. So that's really about it. That's what's going on in here. I mean, Thanos is no longer looking for the, dare I say, the anti-life equation, but he's kind of just doing little minimal small-time villainy stuff. That's what Thanos is doing, which is so odd because this is written by Ron Mars, so it's not like the big things. Like, I'm always used to Thanos scheming and just plotting things way ahead of time, always being 3 moves ahead of time on the chessboard, sometimes 5 moves. But I don't know, it's just it's not as classic as the other storylines that I've talked about. And here's the flashback with Captain Marvel and Nitro. Now, Nitro, of course, has a big role to play in Captain Marvel. And again, Legacy, a character that I said would be important. But this collects those issues of Secret Defenders, which we don't really have a lot of. And then the Cosmic Powers 6-issue miniseries that also a lot of people don't talk about. But to be a completist, I had to include it in here. The next place you'll see Thanos is another Thor book. When I said that Thor wasn't done with Thanos, he wasn't. Now, this is one of my favorite fights because Thanos is all drawn by John Romita Jr., who I know a lot of people are hit and miss with him, but I love the way he draws Thanos. Such a big, bulky character. Of course, that's not what... There we go. He's such a big, bulky character, and just John Romita Jr. draws him so damn well. And it's a big team-up of villains that team up from Thor's world in Asgard with, of course, the Mad Titan. And it's an all-out fight. It's huge battles, and I think, yeah, John Romita Jr. just kills it in this particular story arc. This has been collected in trade paperback format a lot more than one time because this is a very popular storyline, but that is found in the pages of this particular omnibus. Now, for the full experience, of course, I love adding in books at the last minute, and one found in here in Joe Kelly's Deadpool omnibus is... Actually, it's the final issue in here, and that is issue 33, I believe. Yes, right here. And it features Thanos. Now, it's more to do with Deadpool's fascination with death and why she is completely crushing on him, and it's ridiculous and over the top. It could totally be skipped, but I think it's important because it will help explain another book that I'm adding to the second part of this reading order. So, Jim Starlin makes a return to his character that he created because he loves Thanos. And of course, what is Thanos without Adam Warlock? So next up, we have The Infinity Abyss. The next 3 books I'm going to be talking about, including this one, are ones that I include the second trilogy of the Infinity Saga. Mainly because it all focuses on Thanos. Now, this particular storyline is pretty stereotypical. There's a new galactic threat. However, this time, Thanos is not just trying to destroy everything, but it's his clones of himself that are also part clones of other characters that you'll be familiar with in the Marvel Universe that play a bigger part. So, he teams up with, of course, Moondragon, Gamora, Pip the Troll again, and Adam Warlock to stop his clones. And that's what the Infinity Abyss is, because of this huge threat that's happening. Now, we also have an introduction of a character that plays a bigger part here on Earth. And at the same time that that's going on, we have the event out there in the cosmic universe. So it's interesting because we also have Captain Marvel and Spider-Man that are part of this storyline too. So, yes, and of course the new Captain Marvel. I'm not going to reveal that character's identity, but I'll let you find out who that Captain Marvel is. But it was good to see Jim Starlin just come back. And again, this is one that not a lot of people talk about. He does draw the entire thing. So that's that's really cool that he brought back with Thanos Adam Warlock. So this next book, this is very important. It's the second part of this new Infinity Trilogy, is Marvel Universe The End. Now, the important thing that I do have to mention about this book is that it's taken out of continuity. For example, during this time, most of the Marvel books were going through some kind of The End story arc. We had X-Men The End, which was a huge 18-issue event. We had Punisher The End, which was a one-shot. Fantastic Four The End, Hulk The End. So that's kind of what this is. This talks about how the end of the Marvel Universe would be handled if Thanos was behind it, and of course, Thanos being really Jim Starlin. So, this is a pretty interesting book because it's done through Thanos being the narrator of this tale, just involving the coming of this pharaoh known as Akhenaten, who just intends to just take over Earth. And of course, characters get taken out left and right, and because it's taken out of continuity, he has his free reign on how he would handle their deaths. And that's practically what this 6-issue event was. Now, again, this doesn't have to be read. It's not really necessary because it's out of continuity, but I think it's a lot of fun, and it kind of adds to the next story arc and that is found in the pages of Thanos Redemption. Now, this is pretty interesting because half of this is written by Jim Starlin. So the first 6 issues, known as the Epiphany issues, are all written by Jim Starlin, and Thanos is a very interesting character. He's been the worst villain for the Marvel Universe, but if you've read Infinity Gauntlet, the original Infinity series, you see that, is he really as evil as he claims to be? Because he always well, you know what? I will let you find out. If you've not read Infinity Gauntlet and the theories behind Thanos, please do yourself a favor and read that. But this is really a redemption story arc. So you've met Thanos, you know how he's been treated in the past, you've seen him as a villain, you've seen him team up with heroes. So this is kind of a redemption story arc, and of course featuring Adam Warlock. So Epiphany is all drawn by Jim Starlin. However, when we get to the second part of this trade paperback, we have a brand new writer and a brand new artist. So we have Keith Giffen writing the story of Thanos in Samaritan, and that's what this next 6 issues are called, and Ron Lim drawing most of Samaritan. Now, Samaritan, unlike Epiphany, is really used to set up the events of what is known as Annihilation, which is going to kick off the next reading order of Thanos. And pretty much, if you've questioned, like, hey, where's Adam Warlock during this time, or why does Death look like a little girl now instead of bony Death with a cloak? I know my boy loves him thin. But all of those questions, like who's the little fairy that's hanging around with Thanos, that's all in this trade paperback. So honestly, they could put these 3 books together and call it the Annihilation Prologue. This is why I consider this the second Infinity Trilogy, because all these stories tie together, even Marvel Universe The End. Because you see things that Thanos does in there that lead into the redemption story arc. So yes, Jim Starlin leaves the book. It's crazy that he had nothing to do with Annihilation. When I think about it, that it's mostly Keith Giffen, and of course DNA comes in. But all of that will be explained when I do the next Marvel Cosmic Reading Order Part 2. So if I left out an appearance, please let me know in those comments down below. But as far as this episode, that, as they say, is that. Now, most of these books are still available from our sponsor, CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online source for collected editions up to 50% off retail price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on excellent packaging, so your stuff gets to you in excellent condition, and they have amazing customer service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And for all you Minties that are watching, if you're a first-time customer, don't forget to mention that Near Mint Condition sent you their way for a promotional credit on free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your source for the hottest books with deep discounts, customer service, and excellent shipping that will keep you coming back for more. And that was part 1 of the Marvel Cosmic Reading Order featuring Thanos. As I said, I just want to focus on his character first, as he's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest part of the Marvel Cosmic Saga, and then do other videos later on like the Silver Surfer or Guardians of the Galaxy. So this was part 1. Don't forget to tune in for part 2, where I go from Annihilation until present day. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. If you want to partake in our Patreon, all of that information is in the description of the video, along with the link to our Patreon where we have different tiers. And speaking of tiers, check out these end credits. This is one of the tiers that we have available to give our Patreons credit at the end of each of our videos. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Please, everybody, stay healthy, stay safe, and much love to all of you.